This is TVA by Gemma, a podcast about entertainment issues brought to you by darkplaces.com.
This is Marvel Age Star Wars Special Edition Mandalorian Review. My name is Sean. I'm here with Brooks, Andrew, and Greg.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
We're talking about
the fourth episode in season 2.
Season 2, episode 4. Are we halfway through the season now?
I think so.
Yeah, it feels like it's going fast.
What's funny is I love The Mandalorian because there'll be like 2 episodes, like we already said, where people are like, they got to stop doing the side quest stuff because nothing's happening. And then they have like a 3rd episode where it's still kind of a side quest, but then they like drop a real plot point. And there's a 4th episode that's also kind of side questy, but then there's like a major plot point. Like I still see like reviews where people are like, they need to stop it with these side quests and just get to the story. It's like, you need to pay attention. The story's happening. Like it's happening in real time. This is it. This is the story. Like you may not understand what
this last
the show
2
is.
of them at least had some content mixed in with the side quests.
Yeah, I noticed that it feels like it's like Brooks. We talked to you about Rebels before. If you like this show, you'll like Rebels, because Rebels feels like. I think this show, the problem with this show, sometimes that amount of story or Rebels episode into like 40 minutes, and it's like, because a lot of stuff happens, but it's just like. I like it. The thing I'm missing,
the same episodic quality of we're going on missions. In Rebels, it's different because we're working for the Rebels, so we're going on little missions. But those are all like side questy in the sense that we go do a specific thing, but there's an underlying story, like we talked about with stuff like Project Harvester and the Inquisitors.
This episode.
Well, let's go from the beginning.
I'm worried. I'm hoping that this is building to my stuff right now.
We start off with me just rolling my eyes again and going, "Oh no," because he's like, "I think we need to go back and see some old friends making repaired." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Are we going back again to the same place?"
I think we need to go to Tatooine.
I would like to. Okay,
to get repairs.
I've been hesitating to ask, but do we think that the writing is weak?
This episode was that action was good in the episode, but not the writing. Then I don't want to, Apollo. I don't want to put him down. Carl Weathers directed this episode. Watch this episode with the direct. Is like very stilted in this episode, especially towards the end. We're like, "Yay, you did it! You must do this." Okay.
Well, I'll get into that, but
we'll get that later. But
we'll get into that. But I don't think the dialogue's bad or anything.
I think it's real simple. It's been very, really
very simple. I mean, the dialogue isn't bad, but but like we got to go here to get to here to get to here to get to here.
I mean,
that's the concept.
That's kind of how it was last season too.
I don't have a problem with that because I think that's the show concept. Yeah, but I don't think this is something I can break out of.
The first episode, it had a little bit of the Taika robot, he's different. Then it had like. I have spoken. That guy, there's like weird idiosyncrasies that happen. This way, it's been very straightforward. It's like, just doesn't have any like kind of rough edges, it feels like.
So he goes back to, now what planet are his friends on? There's so many desert planets.
Nevarro is the name.
Nevarro. Okay, so he's going back to Nevarro where, think of it. Carl Weathers. Yeah. It's easier to remember that than the actual character's name.
Yeah, I think that's the actor's name. What is the character's name?
I forgot the character.
We're terrible at this.
It's Carl Weathers.
He's the magistrate now, right? He's the new magistrate. We call him that.
Yeah, Magistrate Weathers.
Magistrate and the new sheriff. Who is his old rebel friend.
Sheriff Gina Carano.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know her name.
So he goes back to see them, and they're like, "Oh, we're glad to see you," and everything's real happy. But I'm just like, "Oh my god, dudes!
Yeah, what do you need me to do?
I want to see a map. I want someone to create. Maybe there is one a map of these planets, because I want to see how he feels like he's totally zigzagging. Like, okay, I'll drop you off. Okay, okay, here's where I need to be, but first I got to go back here.
You need to watch the new Rockstars
back here again, then over here, then back here again.
This is not that kind of show. Watch the new Rockstars breakdowns. They'll show you the maps and everything.
Because it feels like he's backtracking a lot. He's all
this one,
worried about getting caught, but he keeps backtracking to places.
Well, he
he's been
stays
already.
out that way, and the Rebel pilots say this, like the New Republic pilots say this. He's out there because it's a place where they don't run into a lot of trouble. Like this is so far, there's only like 2 cops for like 6 planets. So that's why he's
I
out
understand why he's out there, but he knows that they're following him. They're looking for him, but he keeps going back to places he's already been, which is probably where they would be looking. It just seems weird to me. But I guess you got to get your
New Republic
fixed.
or the Empire, because the New Republic guys are basically like
Gideon.
We don't care.
Gideon's chasing him.
That's
And
why
they think they ran the Empire off of that planet for whatever reason. They seem to think that.
I thought the same thing. Like, not to spoil the end of the episode where they're like, blah, blah, tracking. I'm like, well, I can tell you about 4 of the places that he's probably gonna be. They're like, tracking. Was like, don't waste your time.
Yeah, it's a waste of a tracker.
In fact, as we discover, it does happen. He goes back to where he was, and it turns out to be a bad idea.
But
so we'll get to that. He goes back, he lands, he sees his friends. They've got some little workers that are going to fix his ship up. Mm-hmm. One of them looks suspicious right from the get-go. You could tell just the way he's looking in the music. There's something going on there.
Human. They go
into there and just...
Well, I just thought the same thing. It was like Juno. It's like, well, that's just the way her face looks. She's not giving you the stink eye. That's just her face.
Yeah, right.
But no, he was up to no good, turns out.
And then, like, instantaneously, they get him in there, and it's like, look, we've made the bar a school, isn't everything? And it's like, oh, that's nice, I guess. Baby Yoda's super cute in that part. Can't help it. He's a little bit of a brat, but he's so cute.
Powers, though.
No, there goes Greg doing his. It's funny, on my screen, he's looking straight up at me. He just rolled his eyes up, but he's looking at me when he does it. So it's like the Brady Bunch where they're looking at each other in all the different windows. But anywho, I again rolled my eyes because they're instantly like, we need you to do something for us. They're like, well, my ship's like, it's going to take a minute. You got a minute? Awesome. Let's go do this quest.
And
like,
it literally took a minute.
Yeah, it wasn't hard at all. I don't even know why we needed you, Mando.
That is true. Like, well, I guess they did split up.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But imagine you live in a town where like there's one cop and that cop teams up with the mayor to go handle all problems. That's what happens. Like the 2 of them are like, what do we do? Because everyone here in this settlement we've created is completely useless. And like 1/3 guy shows up. Finally, we got a 3rd guy. We can go take over that Imperial base.
We're the only ones that can shoot guns. Those other Mandalorians on the previous episode, or the episode before that, whatever, were the same kind of thing, though. There were 3 of them. They're all Mandalorians, so it's super tough. But they're like, we need a 4th one. It's like, well, you didn't really split up or anything. You kind of just fought together. I'm not sure what he did that you couldn't do.
But yeah,
I guess they just figured the extra muscle would be helpful. It's not like they were like, we've been searching the planet for a 4th, like in The Hobbit or something. It just they were like, well, if we've got another Mandalorian here, we might as well just get him to go with us too. So
there's an Imperial facility on the planet that I guess has been there for a long time. They think it's just skeleton crew.
Yeah, they thought it was like an observation post that was either unmanned or, like you said, very limited. And they were kind of right. I mean, they still only ran into about 12 stormtroopers.
But is there not a safe assumption that that's where Gideon's forces came from?
Yeah, where they arrived at the conclusion that they had run off, I guess, when they defeated Gideon at the end of the first season, he must have pulled out, and they must have observed a lot of the Imperial forces pulling away from the planet and assumed that most or all of them were gone because they hadn't seen an Imperial presence since that happened, and they just assumed, well,
but they want to just go ahead and clean that out because it has valuable equipment in it that they think a lot of people are going to try to salvage.
That can be weaponized. Yeah. Like again, we mentioned in the last episode, it's like the breakup of the Soviet Union. They're like, yeah, just because there's nobody there doesn't mean we just leave it. There's lots of stuff that people could scavenge or make mischief with. So we need to.
Carl Weathers, he was the head of the Bounty Hunters Guild, or at least a local chapter. Doesn't he have any thought in his mind about profiteering off that himself?
He's
or is he
respectable now?
He's gone. He's like Lando. He's gone complete respectable now.
Well, that's what I thought was a weird moment, because we get Horatio Sands back as the Polywog guy or whatever, and they like start harassing him about because Mando just like is a bounty hunter before. He just does it whatever. I don't care about.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Yeah.
But they're both like, you better be paying your debt to society, or I'll be happy to go get you again. I'm like, what does he give a shit? Like, that part is weird to me.
Yeah, you were a bounty hunter too.
You missed the part where I'm blind in one eye still? Like, you blinded me in one eye.
You guys
that wasn't necessary. I would have sat down
permanently.
It's like they've now instituted some sort of like penal system where he has to pay it off for 350 years. Like they didn't owe money to them.
Just indenture.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that. Yeah, I'm not sure how he got involved with them.
That's a gray area. We'll call that a gray area.
Like, we just wanted that character back, so we had to write him in.
Like now he can't
lazy writing.
A little bit. But so they go clean the place out. They somehow crawl out onto a thing with no guardrails, which is like the classic Star Wars joke.
But there's no OSHA in the Star Wars universe. Yeah.
They said they're worried we'd be leaning all day.
Oh, they said that.
Yeah.
That's what they said. If we had railings, we'd just be leaning on them all the time. That's so funny.
When our band takes off, or whatever he says. So he turns down the thing. It looks just like the tractor beam, and it just, and then instead of turning off tractor beam, it's turning off whatever was keeping the lava from exploding.
Yeah,
holding the volcano in check, so the lava just starts rising, and they're like, "Well, this whole base is about to straight up explode." I'd like to see them how they built that base and why they built that base there. They're using that lava for something, for powering the base or something.
I guess they could be. I don't know. I'm not saying that there's anything to this, but in the Clone Wars, when they were doing a Project Harvester style experiment, they did it on Mustafar. And Mustafar is a big lava planet. So I don't know.
Maybe they
like
need
the
that
lava
energy
is
for
necessary
something
to the process.
I know that that's not what they said in terms of, I know in the comics they said that Mustafar was a locus of dark side energy. And I assume that was more...
Maybe lava has some
but
dark
maybe
side
there's a
energy
correlation.
in it.
Yeah, or they're at least visually making that as a correlation.
Brimstone.
Yeah, exactly.
Brimstone.
Like
It does. It is a weird
like
place
hell.
to put. If you just had a
Like
watch outpost or something to keep an eye on this, it's weird to put it out in the middle of nowhere in a volcano.
And that would make sense too. That when they were discovered, they didn't just pull out of that facility; they stayed there. That does suggest there's some reason that location specifically is important. That they wouldn't just relocate that entire base, given how important their research was. So maybe there is some purpose that they have to geographically be there in that place.
They're fleeing the impending doom from lava. They're shooting stormtroopers left and right. Stormtroopers still can't shoot for anything. And then they come across what we need to talk about, right? The big point of the episode. They come into the room with the weird Snoky clone things floating in the water. I couldn't tell what they are.
They did look like, and New Rockstars pointed that out too. If you look closer at one of them does look a lot like Snoke. I don't really want this to be the thing necessarily, but it's okay if they just kind of hint at it there.
That's what it is. Yeah.
But there's definitely a Snoky vibe.
And they're getting midichlorians from a blood sample from the child.
Yeah, that's for real. The M count is so high.
And they're using those to create these clones, but the clones aren't adjusting or adapting or able to survive or whatever.
Well, they're not using the blood. They're using, I don't know. It sounds like they're doing like some like super, it didn't sound like clone.
Like a serum.
They said they're getting blood from the Yoda dude, little Yoda, and then putting it, transfusing it into a different body
to try to create a viable host. What we're supposed to think, and what might be the deal, is that they're trying to create the viable clone bodies for Palpatine.
Right,
is what it sort of implies. Because
or maybe Snokes.
Well, same deal.
Yeah.
Either
so
Palpatine
Snoke was like a project,
Snoke's, or he actually was possessing that body, however you want to say it. But either way, like, they seem to be developing the clones for that purpose. I wonder if that's the only purpose, but that does seem to be And that seems to tie into what we were saying, where that does have a Project Harvester kind of vibe, because that does show a direct connection to why you would want force-sensitive children or force-sensitive people of any kind to be able to try to draw out whatever they were trying to extract from them to make the hosts viable.
Well, the little Yoda's blood must be especially dense with the stuff.
Well, because he's a Yoda.
Yeah, we know that Yoda, as an individual, had an extremely high midichlorian count. And we see from what Baby Yoda can do, just as a baby, he must also. Whether he's a clone of Yoda, which I would not want him to be, or just members of that race seem to just have a natural predilection towards connecting with the Force. Obviously, that's the draw there. And that was what made him valuable to them.
So they discover this, and they wreck the console, right? The Imperial guy, he's like shooting it and stuff, like destroy the blah blah blah.
They did.
They're still able to look at it.
Horatio's able to put a thing in a thing, and they pull up one single message that explains the whole business. That's very Star Wars too. Like, I think I've got a partial message, and he says, "We've been cloning Yoda to make a new emperor." Like, but that's all I got. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful, but that's all I could extract.
And that's the scientist from
Turns out
season
Palpatine's
1, right?
still alive.
Palpatine's alive, and he's using a clone of Yoda to do it.
That's the guy from season 1, the doctor that he talked to that was like, he's only a child, don't hurt him, right?
Yeah. And again, they're all wearing those insignia that seem like the Camino insignia. And their little outfits look like the little, if you watch the Clone Army and Attack of the Clones, the little uniforms they wear where they're raising the clones all have similar style to the outfit that he was wearing. So we're supposed to at least say, and now, there's people in jars, so it's got to be clones at this point.
Yeah. That's like,
why don't we have all these people in jars? If that's just weird. If they're not
very
clones,
weird.
Why
What did you think?
pickling? We just pickle people. We're the Empire.
It
We're
seems
nuts.
weird to me that if that project was still going on, and he said it was from a week ago, right? So that's presumably after the first encounter, and they, drove Gideon off the planet or whatever, crashed his type. So
It also means that dude is still working for him. So
yeah, so the project's still going, but it's weird that they had such a skeleton crew there. If that's the case,
and it must
they
have
had
been
tons of
that dude's off
vehicles like parked there and stuff.
well, and it makes you wonder, because they kept talking about what's safe for the volunteer, and at first you're like, is a volunteer like a euphemism for Baby Yoda, or are they talking about a person, or is the volunteer actually Palpatine? Like, who is the volunteer?
I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
Because whoever it is, they're worried about their well-being enough to say, well, if we keep doing this, it's gonna. And it's true, Palpatine would have to be involved, because a lot of these clones are Palpatine clones. Like in Rise of Skywalker, he's clearly a clone of himself. He is himself. So they do have to use him.
How's his spirit? Like, is his spirit transporting from body to body somehow? His
Would
dark
be my
ghost?
assumption by the dark side deal, yeah.
But apparently, like, the bodies can't handle it, and that's how you end up getting.
Because he's too potent.
Well, that's why he wants to take over Rey's body. Is why, the way I understand it, is like
they steal a lot of this stuff from Dark Empire, which is sad because Dark Empire wasn't good. But the whole concept in Dark Empire, the comic, was that he wanted to steal Leia's baby in that, because his idea is like, I will take over this baby, and then I'll be raised like, you'll just be an evil baby for a while. I mean, who's going to be caring for you while you are raised at a normal rate of growth?
Problem child.
It's like the Omen.
S2E.
It's like Omen, though, like the Antichrist that's born as a baby and just grows
He'd
up.
just be like a toddler standing in the kitchen with just a full cup of coffee, just glaring at you. Like, I wouldn't cross that baby. I don't want to tell you guys your business, but I would not mess with that baby.
But what if the volunteer is Ming Na? That could be.
I guess, but nothing suggests that she's like a Force kind of.
Well, no, but she's just a dangling plot line that's out there. We don't.
Well, I kind of
What
think
happened to her?
she's going to pop up whenever Boba Fett comes back into the story somehow, I would think.
Is both.
Yeah.
Well, he's the one that found her.
Yeah,
Well,
which seems to be the suggestion. He
seems to
found
be
her
that,
in the
yeah.
desert, and now they'll probably come back at the same time because we know he's still on Tatooine because we saw him. And so
We
at
think.
some point it's going to come back. Yeah, we guess. But at some point it feels like the story is going to come back around to where hopefully we'll see
To
Boba
Tatooine.
Fett, Cobb Vanth will all come
Amazingly
back around to
enough.
Tatooine.
Do you ever have deja vu, Mrs. Lancaster?
I don't think so, but I could check with the kitchen.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
The way you like it.
Let's need to build a Death Star and destroy Tatooine. And then the galaxy would just be hunky
The
dory.
Star Wars universe would implode. Like that's the one constant. Like in Phantom Menace, they're 20 minutes into the Phantom Menace, like some little planet called Tatooine. It's like, God.
Of course.
It's always going to be Tatooine. Never seen someone so excited to go to Tunisia.
They need to have like some at the end of this era of Star Wars explain like the solid core of it's all kyber crystal, like something that attracted fate to this planet at all time. Because
If you go back to the old lore, which is not at all canon, but you talk about those early script versions, like when Deke Starkiller is in trouble and they come to Tatooine, and it's not even called Tatooine, I don't think, in that original, but it's the planet Tatooine, the desert planet. It might be Aquilay or something at that point in the story, but they come to Luke and they tell Luke, it's like, actually, our entire family for generations like dates back to the original Jedis. Like, and the first Skywalker discovered the Force and learned how to use it. And he had 12 sons, and he taught only his 12 sons, and each of them had 12 sons or something until 1 million people, because that's a lot of sons for everybody to have. But first, it was a good idea to keep it contained, but it got out of hand fast. And then one of them's kid like went rogue and taught it to the pirates of the Sith, and that's where they come from. But the idea in that was that Tatooine wasn't just some planet. Like the Skywalker family was from Tatooine, and the Skywalker family was like descended from the original discoverers of the Force, the first Force family. So nothing has ever contradicted that in the actual canon, but they've never revisited that as being a possible thing. But I like that idea, because if that were true, that would mean that the line is more important as having come down from Shmi than anybody gives credit, because they're like, oh, Anakin's this immaculate conception, and maybe he was made by the Emperor or some dumb bullshit like that. And like no one ever thinks, well, maybe he just inherited his Force power from his mother. She's a Skywalker. Like maybe that's where his good power comes from, and not some like evil ghost from across the galaxy who doesn't seem to know him from anybody when he meets him later on.
Yeah, that's true. He's not like, I created you.
Yeah, he's like,
So
your career with great interest. Like, there's no way you that arranged things so that we would meet in these circumstances.
So the conception really was immaculate then. What really was, I mean, what she said it was. There wasn't.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of weird Bible
And-
stuff going on
And
in
if
that.
it was, it's because she was special, not because
I kinda
some
wish they hadn't
otherworldly special force I don't
brought
mind
that in, those parables.
I just don't like them taking her out of it. Like, well, there was probably some man somewhere that made it special. Maybe the power, because look, like Ben Solo's power comes from his mother. Like Luke and Leia, their power. Like this. A lot of these characters are important, at least as much from what they inherited from their mother, but some of them directly inherit their Force power from their mother. But
Yeah, and Ben
everybody
Solo
treats
went
the whole
bad.
series like it's just a big father quest.
In fact, so did Anakin. So basically, everyone that came from the mom went bad. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Not saying that's the reason.
That's probably
I'm just teasing.
maybe
I wish
they
they-
raise kids.
Send your angry emails to Brooks Robinson.
I wish they hadn't kind of made this weird biblical feel to the.
Start.words 77 at Gmail.
It kind of. I feel like it kind of sullied the waters of Star Wars.
Kind of like the idea that they were kind of, I mean, they didn't bring it, but it's kind of solidifying in Last Jedi. But Brennan made sense of there. Is that it's just a balance of a thing. So that's what he's like. The dark rises and the light to meet it, or whatever.
He was a virgin.
The idea that you just have
balance.
Imbalance, so the force just creates another force, another like the opposing side to balance.
What was the imbalance? That the Jedi were too powerful? That's why Anakin was created?
Like we said,
because they weren't doing harm. I mean, like,
it doesn't matter if they were doing harm. Like, if you talk about like back in the days when they were at war with the Sith, like 1,000 years ago, and I think it was Malachor was where they had that big purge, and they just set off a doomsday weapon, and basically all of the Sith and a lot of the Jedi, but all the Sith were wiped out at one go, and then there was just Jedis, to the point where like 12 Jedi 1,000 years later sitting around a room, and someone says, I think I saw a Sith, and like, fuck that. Like, find it and kill it. Like, wait, hold up. Why? Yeah, exactly. What? Never again in my lifetime. It's like, it never happened in any of our lifetimes before. What are we all freaking out about?
Well, see, I don't know, man.
Like if I said I saw a pirate and people were like, never again. Like,
in my mind,
down.
Because I'm old school original trilogy, the Force is a power of good and creation and love, and the idea that the Force gets mad if there's too much happiness, that it has to create a darkness. I don't buy that.
Yeah, I think the Force is sort of
side and a physical.
It has to be both. The Force is a yin yang, and I really do think that Lucas meant it that way. But I mean, if you get into like the philosophy that influenced Lucas, and if you get into the Jungian psychology that I think also influenced him, it has to be a balance of both. Not good and evil necessarily, but light and dark. And that's not the same thing. Everybody has light and dark in them. That doesn't mean that you're good or bad. But the problem with the Jedi is they say, well, we embrace the light, and then we don't have any darkness. It's like, well, bullshit. That's not true. Right. Like everybody, you can embrace your shadow. You can confront your shadow. You can know what your negative qualities are or your darkness, but you can't ever annihilate that part of yourself. It's part of you.
Yeah, and it's also sort of like not just like darkness, like a sacred and profane thing going on. Because if you have, that's the idea that the Jedi get too up their own butt. That's why at the point they never did it finally in Rise of Skywalker and all those things. But I think the point of the end would be to have a great Jedi, somebody that, hey, I'm also a Jedi. Also, I can get married and be normal, like that type of thing. There's like, it's just an imbalance in that way. They're too strict and like structured and stuff. And
I'm not going to go oyster myself and eschew all the things that connect people to their own humanity, because that makes you weird.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's not a really
always about humanity with Sean. Forget all the other species.
But that's what think about the Sith.
What about the squid heads?
What about Wookiees?
The Sith is really about humanity. Like Sith is like a real world. Whereas Jedi is like logic, it's higher reasoning, it's all that type of stuff. So there has to be, that's the balance that's happening.
Yeah, they're about the immediate passion of things. What about like the carnal element? Although the Sith sort of don't really get into the idea of physical love or anything that do. They have their own weird dogma that like nobody seems.
Orgies
to me, that's like my old school belief. That's a perversion of the Force. That's what Yoda was saying, that the dark side is like the quick and easy way, not the right way. I don't know. It doesn't matter. We shouldn't get too deep into the philosophy of it. Well,
the Wills Brooks, I don't think you have.
Well, I still think even with
turners, they are not.
What Yoda taught Luke really does seem to be about embracing both of those sides, because the whole idea of that dark side cave, like when he goes in there, like go in there and find out about, your personal darkness is what that's really about. Like, it's not like there's a real that it's haunted by a dark side ghost and you have to fight that. That's not what that scene is about. That scene is about you're going to go in there and you're going to face the thing that makes you afraid of yourself. And for Luke, that is, what if I'm the same as Vader? And he doesn't know why that he's afraid of that, but that's also a portent of who he is and where he comes from. But there's still that thing, like, your greatest fear is that there's no difference between you and a Vader, because your head's being filled with all this stuff, like you're good and he's bad. But what if you have the potential to become that too? There's a great responsibility there. That's the lesson. And then later, he learns that Vader is his father, and that has an even greater dimension to it. But that there's still that idea of yin yang. It's like you cannot you can't just fight that part of yourself and it doesn't exist anymore. That part of yourself always exists. So the idea of the Jedi saying we're going to wipe out the Sith and now it's just the light. It's like, well, no, because then the Jedi gets kind of corrupted and then the Sith rise again. Like that balance has to happen. The Force doesn't support the light or the dark. It is necessarily composed of both. So this idea that there's a vergence that says if there's too much of one, then we have to sort of set things straight. It's not favoring one side or another. It's just that's just the natural state of things.
And that's why at that point you have, I mean, I don't know where Palpatine fits in that, but that's why you have Solo and Rey at that point. That's they're trying to make. I mean, they mess it up, but I mean that's the whole point.
Palpatine's like that because while the Jedi were constantly recruiting, the Sith were like, there should probably only be like 2 of us at a time.
Which I never understood.
They always wanted to. Well, it's a dumb rule if you take like thousands of people. But the reason it matters to the Sith is because their goal is to consolidate individual power. Right. Like if there's too many Sith, one of these Sith is going to kill me.
But that's what happens with 2 of them. That's like the whole idea. It's like I am the master until you kill me.
They just can't help it. I think at that point,
true. It also makes more sense to be less of you then.
But Palpatine,
the more powerful you are on that side. It's like
and that's also assuming that the student kills the master, which might not necessarily happen.
But it always happens. It's like it always happens.
That's the lesson of the Sith. Like
it's
every
like,
master
yeah,
like,
I killed my master, and he killed his, and he killed his. But that doesn't mean you're going to do it.
Yeah, I'm different.
That's not realistic though. That's totally realistic with people that are like that. They don't have loyalty.
But what happens with Palpatine is he ends up being the last Sith left, and he's like more powerful than all the Jedis combined. Like that's balance. Like how can that happen? It's like because he has like the combined power of the dark side of the Force because nobody else is there to sort of embrace it.
Except somehow Darth Maul's still alive for years and years after Vader's walking around.
You have guys like the Inquisitors, but what I mean is for the most part, it's represented.
I thought there were only 2. It doesn't make sense to me. That's cool.
Well, that's the Sith rule. That's not the Force rule. The Sith are like, shouldn't have a lot of people that we teach this to.
You're confusing Sith.
So they don't care. Palpatine doesn't care that Darth Maul's still out there.
Yeah, because he doesn't think Maul's strong enough to give.
He doesn't think he's a Sith anymore. He's like,
like he tried to take Maul out of the equation, and mostly he did. Like so Maul wasn't powerful enough to challenge the Emperor. He wasn't even powerful enough to challenge Vader. Like he just became almost neutral because he hated the Jedi and the Sith equally near the end.
Obi-Wan?
And he got killed by an old man.
Well, yeah, he has a real problem with Obi-Wan. But can you blame him?
Yeah, you cut me in half.
Well, yeah.
It stays with you.
I mean, let's be fair.
Actually, it doesn't stay with you, but you know.
Well, stays with half of you. Very strongly.
Let's not split hairs. The way we split my body. Anywho, so there's some floaty guys in there that look kind of like Snokies. We don't know.
Which we assume is probably... I mean, I don't want this to skew too close to the sequel trilogy, but I mean, it is in that universe, so you would imagine that there are cloning facilities that are playing with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I agree with Brooks in that I wouldn't think they would want to get that close to the actual Skywalker saga. My vibe at the end of it was that
maybe they're building to another clone kind of thing.
Well, I was thinking like maybe
they
like force sensitive super soldiers or something, something like that.
Well, that's where the end is kind of taking us. Like,
we'll get to that too. But so we got a chase. And the chase scene is very, it is what it is. I did love when the speeder bikes like skipped down the mountain. I thought that was cool looking. I don't know why.
That chase was awesome.
I didn't like and we talked about, you guys mentioned this at the very beginning. I really don't like when they blow something up. They'll go, woohoo, woo, yeah, woo. It's like, I don't know why. I'm tired of that in Star Wars, man. In a real fight, I know it's not real, but I bet if you got into real combat and real guys shooting, they all go, woo, and they blow somebody up.
I'd go, woo.
Sometimes I shoot my pistol in the air.
Well, maybe I'm weird.
I didn't think that would work.
Maybe I just think that's weird. But even at the very end, they all land and he takes off, and then all of them go at the same time. Woo! It's like, I don't know.
I'll allow it.
It's
part of the book.
It does seem weird, like when they go woo and there's still 3 TIE fighters after them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of combat.
It's also weird that he just can't land for a second. It takes 5 seconds to land and go, hey, let me get out for a second and give you a handshake. He's like, oh, gotta go by. I was like, just for a second.
It's like, well, I gotta, prop. I gotta get the landing
onboard maintenance
wheels out. I got the.
Gotta go. Gotta go.
I don't know how technical landing is, but probably have to do some kind of preparations for it.
He could have done.
He got back to his ship fast because they are speeding full speed, getting chased by TIE fighters, and he still gets all the way back there, gets Yoda, and gets back in it. Yeah, but still,
and thankfully the bad guy repaired it. While they were gone.
that was polite of him.
Yeah.
I guess he didn't want to break cover if he was just like not doing his job because there was another guy there. He's like, "What are you doing?" Plus, they wanted it in the air. They wanted it up there so they could track him.
Yeah.
Carl Weathers is directed, but the stuff that he did in this one is really weird and stilty. Like, and also the inside the ship when they're running around, it's like run around, wipe to the other team running through that same quarter because it's like a lot of that reversal stuff. But the CG department always wins because those are the shots that they direct, basically. And like they do such a good job of him running and then like taking off and hitting the jetpack. It's so satisfying every time he does that. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then the shit
it looks great
up there, and then the sound design, he goes and it comes down. I was like, that's all great.
That's what I like, those speeder bikes like skipping down the mountain, because I was wondering like how are they going to do that, but that was kind of cool looking.
Like animators going.
And then he puts his foot down to pivot on the ground to turn like he's doing motocross or something. It's pretty awesome. And 2 of them crash immediately. They suck.
We're getting to the point in this episode, though. I think we might have a contender for the "I'm going to call you Solo" line as the worst, stupidest like question in Star Wars history.
Which is what?
He says, "You're from Alderaan. Did you lose anybody?"
Oh yeah, that is.
Oh yeah, that was very.
It's like, oh, your whole planet blew up. Did you lose anybody? It's like, well,
no. Thankfully, my family was all on vacation that week.
No, I knew exactly where they
lost
were.
everything, but it kind of dies flat because you're like, yeah, of course, your planet died. What?
Well, I guess I'll give them.
It's a dumb question. It's a dumb
rope here a little and say we're in a galactic community. Just because you're from somewhere, it'd be like I'm from Rome. If Rome were to blow up, people would be like, well, did you know anybody still there?
That's a dumb question for a city to think about it. Like if Atlanta was here, you left Atlanta, or Brooks or I left. Brooks left Atlanta tomorrow, and it all blew up. And somebody goes, "Did you lose anybody?" It's like, yeah, of course I know people in the city. That's a dumb question. This is a dumb question.
Well, I mean, she could have been born there, and her family left when they were young. I mean, it's possible.
Anytime you know what the next word's going to be, that's bad writing.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you can't help that. I mean, it's like, hi, hello, but
I won't say bad writing. That's a little too far, but I will say that I knew that response was coming.
It would have been better for him, to say, you're from Alderaan and just leave it hanging because we all understand what that means.
Yeah, this show, but again, you have to remind, I have to keep reminding, especially this season more, it's still a kid's show though. Like it's really accessible.
It's true, and they're still writing this show that you're not necessarily invested in everything that's happened in every movie. And
what's the point of that scene?
But why is it a kid?
I mean, it gets a lot.
Well, I'm not. I know what you're saying.
I mean,
they want it to be kid friendly, because they don't want to exclude part of their audience.
Well, but they've got that.
Well, what do you want, man? You want like gore and sex scenes? What do you want?
But
Star Wars has always been.
But I want a gritty Star Wars story.
But but right now we're
tired
talking about the level of exposition from an expositional perspective.
Yeah, you can make it more
sophisticated. They reiterate
sophisticated
points that are obvious to the rest of us. I don't have a problem with that, because that might be in deference to people who aren't as invested in the continuity. It's like, well, that happened 40 years ago in the movies.
Yeah, I don't mind. And
so it's okay to remind
40 years ago.
But also, for
us, it was, yeah.
Oh yeah, but I mean in terms of where they are in the story.
Yeah, I'm not talking about in story. I'm
Okay,
talking about
never mind.
literally for us. Like it's that line's there to remind the audience. It's like you're from Alderaan, and she's like, "Yeah, I lost everybody."
Oh, I didn't mind the line itself. Him asking her about Alderaan. To me, could just been something like he just goes, "I'm very sorry," and walks off, or something like that.
I want to know
just
what
think
that
it's
scene.
funny that he
what was
keeps
the
a
point of the
junior
scene?
badge with him. Like, here's a rebel badge. If you change your mind,
They spent a lot of showtime on
those?
that scene.
And that
So-
dude talking to everybody. Yeah.
So there's a reason. Like, what's the story reason? What is she going to leave and become a rebel again? Is that what they're?
maybe I think
Or
they
not
want
a
her to be
rebel.
they're
Or-
leading to her maybe wanting to be a bigger part of the story. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's what's going to happen or not.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Then he leaves the little badge there, like, pick it up and join again. I wish I was so special that old jobs would come back to me and go, "Would you come back?" Never happens.
We drop everything if you did.
Well, that security job you used to have. Baby.
Did you watch
I
Parks
wouldn't
and
want
Rec?
it again, but I'd be thrilled if they wanted me back.
In Parks and Rec, Adam Scott's character, like there's like he's an accountant, and there's this one accounting firm that he always like goes to as his sort of standing job offer, and they're thrilled to have him, and he always quits after like a day because he wants to do something else.
So please, if there's anything we can do to make you happier in your new job, just let me know.
Oh, no, this is great, Barney. Thank you. But I have to quit. Again.
What?
It feels like that. They're like,
Oh yeah.
"Ooh, man, Wyatt's coming to work here." It's like, actually, I
Yeah.
have to
It's
go.
like they give him a cake.
Yeah. It'd just be nice to be wanted, I guess.
Most of us don't have that.
I think that my biggest problem, like I said before, it's not this year. Like they're fun. I enjoy it every time, but it's just that I like the simplicity. It's just they're losing a little bit of charm this year. There's nothing interesting. Whereas, like I said, there's like and part of that's because we're going back every episode seeing old characters. Or every episode last year was like, oh, here's a new situation, here's a brand new character, and also the characters had little like the robot or like what I have spoken. You're right, all that stuff. Those are interesting. Like from a writing standpoint, they're interesting little.
It would be kind of interesting if he ever found an ensemble that he spent a fair amount of time with.
Yeah, it's just they don't have a lot of time.
They travel from episode to episode with.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
they may have started out a little strong this year because they started out with Timothy Oliphant and Cobb Vanth.
Yeah, that
who's a
episode I
fun
thought was
actor
cool.
and
It
a
was
good
great.
character.
He had
And then they haven't introduced any other major characters since then. I'll give you that because then he's been revisiting a lot of characters.
It's just
that
not
he
a lot of.
already knew.
It feels like we're chewing an old piece of gum at this point. Some of this, like this episode, was like, yeah, okay, this is fun. It's
Well, we
fun.
met the new Mandalorians. That's something.
Yeah,
That
I
was
think
fun
Bo-Katan
too. I think the
is-
first
is
episode and the
pretty
last
awesome.
episode.
the new old Mandalorians. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm
now
excited. I watch this stuff.
he's
and go,
being
like,
followed.
If this happened when I was a kid, I would lose my mind over this show.
Oh yeah. I guess we should just be thankful that there is Star Wars.
I mean, I like Phantom Menace.
Yeah. I'm not saying there's no room for criticism, but I just love this show. Like this, and when they try to make Star Wars and you realize it is actually hard. A lot of people get this wrong.
Yeah, very, very wrong.
like so they're doing great.
I don't know. I mean, but where does it go wrong? See, like I feel like it goes wrong when it gets to the studio level. At least that's what's going on right now.
I feel it goes wrong when a committee is making decisions and
bigger
no
it
one
gets,
is coordinating.
what happens.
You
Well,
get three different different directors and no one's coordinating them. That was the real
Yeah,
problem.
this has a story they're building to the whole time, and that's more than the movies could say.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little bugged that as I surf around on the internet, I'm seeing things every once in a while. People saying that Mandalorian is better than Firefly, and I'm like, how in the world could you be saying that? I mean, that's just
Mandalorian's good.
ridiculous.
It's fun.
I think maybe
it's different.
Take the dialogue out of Firefly, and you might think that.
But
Well,
also,
but it's
I
all
think they're
together.
two difficult
That's
things to
what counts.
compare. I think genre-wise they're similar, but in terms of like the character dynamics and stuff, like
There's
The
some-
Mandalorian owes a lot to Firefly in terms of its aesthetic and what it does. But it's not trying to be similar in story, and certainly not trying to be similar in characters. Firefly had an ensemble of 9 characters.
That all had pretty interesting stories too. Like that's like hard to deal with.
Yeah, that's not what
that's
going for. I don't think it's a fair comparison in either direction.
I think the comparison comes in that they're both sci-fi westerns. And
I think sci-fi fans just feel like comparing things unnecessarily.
Yeah,
like,
it's just
one. To me, one is not better than the other. There's categories where one could be superior over the other, but as two different shows.
But I mean, I love Star Wars and stuff, but Firefly was just special.
Firefly was great, but if they'd let Firefly go on for as long as Star Wars is going on, we'd all be sick of it.
But I think the idea is there because it's outside of those shows. It's an obvious idea. Like you're out in the outer space, out the outer limits is pioneer country. Like that's what it is. I mean, it's going to take on a Western flavor. I know there's a game called, I forgot what it's called, Rebel Galaxy. That's what and it's like you're a ship and you get cargo and stuff. And it's sort of like Firefly. But they asked the guys who made it, and they're like, "Do you ever heard of Firefly?" I've never even seen Firefly. It's just an obvious idea,
Is that a board game?
Sure, Space Western. Yeah.
No, it's like
a phone game or something, right?
No, it's like a PC game.
So like a phone game.
Well, I thought I saw it on the App
We
Store.
all look old. Is that on the computer?
They have something like that on the App Store that I saw. It doesn't matter.
Oh,
yeah, there's a lot of games like that. Though.
It reminds me of a tabletop game that somebody had that I played.
Yeah, it's Space Trucker. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what any of those
Space
Trucker.
Yeah.
That's what Han was. He was a space trucker.
That's what I mean.
Well, that's what I keep telling people. If you watch The Empire Strikes Back, the Han arc in The Empire Strikes Back is basically Smokey and the Bandit.
Well, but
that's
also
what it is. The entire movie, it's Smokey and the Bandit. It really is. Watch Smokey and the Bandit. That is.
So now I need to make a cut with like the Southern music from Smokey and the Bandit.
Java stuff at the end is all. I mean, it's like that's like a Western short, playing out with Java part and all the thing. I mean, so it's all. It comes from Star Wars, obviously, but it's a relative.
I think it's easy for Firefly to get a pass because it ended too early. But I think in a lot of ways it's good for us that it did. We didn't have to watch Firefly sort of languish in some of the same tropes that other shows like it fell into. And to me, I think the movie is proof of that because we saw some of those things arise in the movie. It's like, I like the movie.
I like it.
Not as much as you do, but I like the movie. But there are definitely things in the movie that show you like, yeah, we didn't really want Joss Whedon playing around Firefly too much longer than this. It's turning into a bloodbath pretty early.
I think
the movie was supposed to spark interest, and he used it to kill off two of the main characters.
Firefly is kind of the opposite of Star Wars, I think, because like Firefly, the characters are fascinating, but the world itself is not that interesting. I don't think the world they inhabit. Whereas Star Wars, the world is so amazing and cool, but the characters sometimes fall short, especially in the sequels. They definitely don't have the dialogue and the character development that Firefly had, but
which is just Whedon's strength.
But if I lived
and a lot of the people that he gathered
world,
for that show, that's their strength.
Nice.
But there's a reason that there's not more Firefly stuff going on because outside of all of that, even when you take those creators out of the mix, like because I think they have a Firefly comic now. But they tried to do some comic series that were follow-ups to the movie and stuff like that. And they were pretty limited. They didn't do that many of them because it's not a world that by itself people want to go back to so much as they like the way it was written and done when Joss Whedon and his team was working on it. So
you must have pissed off Andrew.
He's gone now. Like
I believe that was.
If we're just going to keep talking about Firefly, then I'm just out.
That's it. I'm going to go watch it right now.
I just can't talk to you guys right now.
He had to go in the other room and stab something with a knife. Okay.
Wrap a pillow around his head and scream.
I come back and like Firefly cosplay. I'm like, what the heck?
Oh yeah, with your brown coat on, you come in with your brown.
What do you say now, Sean?
That's a retort. Like, I don't have anything to say now. That would be the best. I'm a real damn
How
hero.
successful would Mandalorian be without Baby Yoda? That's a question. I mean, because theoretically, Baby Yoda means nothing to the story, but
so far.
But my son loves Baby Yoda.
Like among Star Wars people, even more than most things like Rebels because it's live action. but it wouldn't have the cultural. But I don't know if those cultural people actually even watch the show, though. There's so many people that have Baby Yoda like a doll on their desk, and like you watch the show, and they're like, no. So it's like there's something.
I don't know, but to me, is especially with a television show, it's those little things that get people interested in it.
Yeah, I think Baby Yoda's important to the show, even though he doesn't do anything, but because he's so cute. I mean, for me, I just think he's adorable. It actually gives the story a little bit of like you're worried about him. You know, when they're chasing him.
I think
I don't really care if Mando gets caught. I like him okay, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, I do think it
gives
helps
Mando
with the
something to fight for.
Well, it also gives something to care about, because I do think, like, because we don't see Mando's face, that it's a little bit harder to care about him than it is.
And he doesn't have much character that we see, just little snippets, you know.
And Baby Yoda is necessary to humanize him. It's like it's not like he serves no function in the story. This is what's humanized that character from episode 1.
He'd be boring without it because you don't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah, this idea of having to care for this kid and deal with this kid, it's like it's changed his character, and now it's become his sort of quest. But that's all because of his changed character. He wouldn't have this quest if he didn't care.
Yeah, that is the difference. Remember how many times he left him behind in the last season? He's like, yeah, we'll put him in there. This time he's like, no,
he stays with me.
Well, the stakes get raised because if he's 4 feet from him, someone kicks him into a pit. Like
I learned that lesson.
Or he eats a killer spider, or he
really, you can't leave this kid alone 5 seconds.
Seriously, they go back and that school's been burned down and everyone's dead in it. Like,
and he's sitting there eating blue cookies.
Or he slurps down a leg of one of the kids.
Really having fun.
Nothing. Let's get out of here. Maybe that's why he took off so fast. Shh, bye bye.
Gotta go.
To go to school and it's like body parts everywhere.
Everybody's dead. Yeah.
Was he actually helping him fix the ship at the beginning?
Trying.
He was trying.
Yeah,
to.
a little bit.
Kind of a little bit, and like actually pulled like,
kind of in that baby Groot kind of way, you know. It's like,
he could fit into the hole, and so he was trying to teach him to, but he couldn't do it because he's a baby. And you don't let babies play with electrical wires, Mando.
Yeah, come on, man.
That's how you kill babies, you know. Like Baby Yoda dies right there. Well, yeah, and then the credits roll.
You just see him with the drill sealing that hole back up. This is it's going to be.
I saw a video the other day. Apparently, Pedro Pascal pitched a fit. Yeah, he's getting
not taking the helmet off.
Because
we talked about this. Yeah,
well, that keeps circulating as a story. But
I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, we talked about this a while back, but that's why we were theorizing when the Mandalorians were in. You might not have come into that episode yet, but we were theorizing that, you know, they're showing them we don't wear the helmets. We're real Mandalorians. We're thinking maybe they're working it in to where he could take his off because they do, and it's okay, and that way the actor can be seen.
Well, and the idea that he's drinking that broth and Baby Yoda can sort of see him. He's doing that in front of Baby Yoda.
Yeah, he's gradually getting used to the idea of it. And I hope he does.
They're part of the same clan. They're both Mudhorns. So technically, I guess Baby Yoda could see him without the helmet on and it wouldn't be that big a deal. But
I guess
I would like for him to. I want to see the actor more.
No problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's growth for the character. I think it works in the story as well. If he lightens up in that way and realizes that creed is unnecessarily strict in terms of the value that it offers. Like
he's lighting up in lots of ways. Like, you know, when he met the baby, he wasn't all. He didn't care at all. Well, actually, he did. The minute he saw the baby, he seemed to. He killed IG-88, whatever his name was.
IG-11.
Yeah, instantly. Then did the cute little finger.
New Rockstars pointed out there's a statue to IG-11 in that town. I didn't even notice it.
I didn't notice that either. I read about that.
That was pretty cool.
That's where I'm missing some of that. What was really cool about last year too was like when we got to see that Mandalorian, his sect, I guess now, their culture. You know, this is the way, all that stuff, and the forger lady, and she's awesome. Like, there's just a lot of cool stuff happening. And this one is much more, even the Mandalorians that show up, like, you don't have to do any of that stuff. It's just much more casual.
Well, I mean, I do kind of feel like they're throwing all that out. It's like, you know,
it was really cool last year, like learning about that. And like,
I know they're throwing it out, but the idea of challenging it so that he realizes there's other perspectives is necessary. I don't know that's a course correction for the show.
A piece of writing in the place of that. There's not, they haven't replaced it with any other cool stuff. So it's like, yeah, that's why it feels light.
But I do think, for the series to continue to be successful, he's probably going to take his helmet off at some point.
And I think he will.
I think he will.
I kind of feel like this is all teasing a big storyline that culminates in Mandalore.
We made that joke in the first season, Sean, where he takes off the helmet the first time and like, the eyes are all bashed in. Game of Thrones. Like,
too soon, man. Too soon.
It's always too soon.
That traumatized me, man. I saw that on that
4-part podcast about that episode. As it kept having to come on.
It's ruined my whole damn trip.
People talk about that red wedding or whatever. It's like, no, man.
No,
it was Oberyn. That's what broke my heart.
Yeah, it's true. That's why nothing mattered to me on that show. I think that season was necessary because when people were like in the last season, like, this is garbage. Like, I didn't even notice. I've been disconnected emotionally since that happened. I don't know how you guys have.
I've been dead inside since that
after
day.
that, I could just watch it for fun.
So I'm excited about the next one, I guess. He's going to go see Ahsoka now.
I hope he sees Ahsoka now. But
he's like going to get waylaid on the way, and they're going to say,
I'm telling you, she's going to show up in the last.
You got to do something for us.
Yeah, I thought that's where they're going this episode, and then it starts and I was like, what is happening here? Why?
We're gonna have to get the ship fixed.
Last 5 minutes of the season finale. That's where we're going to see her.
Oh, I hope not. Just because they teased her already, it'd be pretty egregious for them to mention her by name and have her not be in the show. I feel like we're going to have her in an episode. We're going to see enough, and I feel like that's going to tease something bigger. I feel like this Mandalore thing is going to become a big part of what this show is, and I kind of hope.
It kind of has to be.
Well, yeah, he's the Mandalorian. Like, if anything should concern you, like baby Jedis and stuff like that, like that's along the way you learn that. But if something concerns you and your chosen creed and your heritage and the people that that raised you and the culture they came from, it's the fate of the planet Mandalore. And I would love it if that somehow tied in with their need to fight off this Imperial faction. Like if Gideon's like stronghold is there, and then that brings the whole story together.
He's got the dark saber, so there is a tie. There's a tie.
Yeah,
there.
Exactly. There's a connection.
It does feel like it's coming.
Like that he could be from Mandalore because he could. I mean, he could be on there. Like he definitely has some kind of connection to Bo-Katan and them because Bo-Katan is looking for Gideon to reclaim the dark saber. So yeah, it's not out of nowhere. It's
kind of neat that I like the way they're working it out to where Mando is inadvertently in the middle of a lot of stuff going on, but he's not directly in it, but he's in it because he has the child. Like there's big events going on all around him that he doesn't even know about, that we don't yet know about. And that's kind of neat. I'm glad they're writing it that way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff going on. Hey, I don't mind. People keep saying
he's right.
What's
John
that?
Favreau writes it. It's like not a day writing.
So far,
he's
yeah. Yeah, so far he's written everyone this year, yeah. I don't know if he wrote all of the season 1 episodes, but he's written every episode.
Well, he always said that he wrote the first half of the first season like when he was in college. He already had like this idea a long time ago, which is kind of fun.
Back when I was still playing with toys.
Yeah. Back when he was swingers or whatever.
Yes, swingers. Oh my God.
Well, I could see that happen.
I love it.
Because
this shit is money, damn. It's money.
Yeah. But who'd have thought that guy, right?
So he's going to go see her, and he's got a tracker on his ship now. Not this ship, sister. And there you go. They're going to follow him to whatever planet Ahsoka Tano is on. What planet was it?
Or what did they call it? It's a new planet. Something like Caladan or something.
It better not be a desert world, so help me.
And Gideon and his crew are going to get 2 for the price of 1, or at least a chance to get 2 for the price of 1, Ahsoka and Baby Yoda.
Oh, yeah, because she's got some midi-chlorians too.
Well, the idea is, too, like when they have that last shot, and it's him and Dark Troopers.
Yeah, that's what we need to talk about. I knew there was something else.
That I've seen different videos, and people are centering on what they think these Dark Troopers are. Like, are they Dark Troopers like Dark Forces Dark Troopers? Because that's a thing that goes as far back as that video game. Or they had a version of Dark Troopers in Rebels, where they had tried to sort of repurpose what was left of the clones with partly cybernetic parts, I think.
They're obviously getting juiced or something because they're not just like hanging out in the mess hall. They're like they're all hooked up.
And are they? Isn't there a version of Dark Troopers that are just droids?
And that may be what these are.
That's what I'd read.
They are just like in bays behind him, like they're ready to be powered up. They don't look like, but I would think if there was a cloning facility, there may be like a sort of fusion of them trying to use like cloned parts or cloned brains to go into these troopers.
And kind of neat if they had some basic force powers, I guess, from the experiments.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if anything like in Dark Empire or something like that, if they ever had anything like that in those, because I can't remember. It's been so long since I read that comic. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of that comic, but it feels like they're drawing some stuff.
Are they supposed to be frozen? Because he just opens the door to that room and just fog and smoke is everywhere instantly. Like, is that a freezer or something?
But still cooking, maybe. And that's what they need the Mandalorians for.
And what is he wearing? He's got like a Vader like armor thing on.
Yeah, I kind of feel like every Moff just makes up his own outfit. Usually, like I know I'm a big Lando Calrissian fan, so he's the exception to me. But generally speaking, in Star Wars, you don't trust anybody wearing a cape because they usually like that. The one guy in Rogue One is like, I've never seen another Imperial guy just walking around in a cape. What the hell are you wearing a cape for? It's like that's a
Doesn't Boba Fett wear a cape?
Device. He has like a little kind of half cape dealy hanging, I guess.
Yeah.
Shawl.
It's a shawl.
It's cold.
It gets cold on the desert at night.
You don't know.
So I am really curious to see what these guys are, because that looks like it could be some cool action. Yeah. Scary for Mando, man. He better get a Ahsoka. He needs some people to be with him. He needs to stop being alone facing all this stuff.
Well, I think that's part of his journey is like trying to teach him that, and he is learning that because he has friends that he goes back to and stuff like that. But I do think that they are now starting to introduce him to a larger conflict, because he didn't have that in the first season, but now they're like, well, actually there's like this big fight coming on Mandalore, potentially Mandalore.
Right.
Certainly there's a big fight with these Imperial remnants, and Bo-Katan is already involved in it, so he knows that's going down. Certainly when he finds Ahsoka Tano, she's going to be embroiled in something, whether it's the same conflict or some other thing. Like, she's going to be involved in some business. And this whole idea of, I feel
really
like
want to see her.
What?
Go ahead. I was just saying, from her, I just want to hope we get some information about, the Rebels thing. Last time we saw her, they went to the unknown regions. And then,
they were looking for her.
I have to mention that.
I would like that to tease that larger story. That doesn't have to be the focus of Mandalorian, but certainly they could mention that.
Well, we're halfway through the season and we're finally getting to her, hopefully. So it's going to be cool. The last four, they got a lot of stuff to cover in these last 4 episodes if they're going to wrap this up. So hopefully it won't be a lot of wasting time anymore.
I hope not. I don't feel like, aside from the spider episode, which was
the spider episode was a complete
I don't feel
waste
like they're
of time.
wasting
I liked it.
Like the other
but there was
stories,
nothing happened.
We're spinning their wheels. The spider one is the only one that I thought was just kind of, because there was nothing aside from all the other episodes that are a side quest that introduces another larger element. Like, that's the one episode where it was a side thing that didn't do that. It was just
it introduced that rebel officer that is later talking to her. I guess.
Introduced the element of rebel authority.
They keep calling them rebels, but they're not rebels anymore.
The New Republic is what they are.
New Republic authority kind of starting to show itself at the outer rim.
They love eggs too.
And they sort of in this episode have established them as having a means of wanting, because first of all, in that last episode, they did recognize that Mando was kind of a wanted fugitive and just sort of on their own authority decided, no, he's cool. So you already realized these guys are on the fringe like everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, they're not by the book kind of guys either. And in this episode, you get a little bit more of that, where like, we know something's happening on the Outer Rim that the core worlds don't really know about.
Mm-hmm.
I like the impression you get from these New Republic off, like these pilots. They're like, yeah, it was really fun when we were like the rebels, but now we have to like go do all this paperwork and like talk to all these people and get their statement.
Yeah, it sucks.
What happened? He's like, right the way he's like, just his attitude while he's doing that. I was like, yeah, this sucks now.
Yeah, as a fighter pilot during the war.
Yeah.
You know what I'm gonna do?
Yeah, now just flying
Tell people to
patrols.
get their blinkers fixed.
The transponders, Sean.
Exactly.
Transponders.
You don't have a proper transponder on your thing.
It's a pre-imperial vessel.
Yeah, I didn't fight in 3 wars to tell you that either, but here we are.
Just like, that's a weird thing too. It's like, well, what about the Razor Crest? Who said anything about a Razor
I was
Crest?
kind of hoping I could retire and for the big pension after the war ended. But no, got roped into going to the farthest part of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I didn't do a lot in the wars. Because he was like, I was there when Alderaan blew up. Like, well,
I didn't see any. Yeah, where were you exactly? A prisoner on the Death Star? There was no one else there.
I stood there and watched 9/11 and did nothing.
I mean, but for real, where was he? The Death Star rolled up, just blew up that planet, and then
my assumption was that he's saying he was in the rebellion at that time.
Oh, okay.
He was there, just watching helplessly.
They saw the Death Star show up, and he got the fuck out.
What was I supposed to do?
Re-edit episode 4 with him in the background of like an Imperial still going, oh.
What, you think you could blow up the Death Star with one X-Wing?
Okay, guys. I think we covered it.
Yeah. We didn't talk about Jeans Guy. Should we talk about Jeans Guy for a second?
Hit it real quick. Jeans dude.
There's a guy in the background in jeans. Have you not seen this?
Oh, it was like a tech worker. I did see it.
Well, someone in the crew, probably.
Yeah.
Just somebody in the technical crew that they caught in the shot. This is only because people scrutinize every frame of every episode to do these reaction videos that anyone even noticed it, because I certainly didn't.
All it looked like to me was a guy in blue pants. I mean, I couldn't tell they were jeans except they were blue. And he had a watch on. But, what does that mean? And you could have watches in Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess. So who said, there's not blue jeans in Star Wars guy?
I mean, it does look like a modern dude in a T-shirt, some kind of blue pants, and a wristwatch, and some,
At least he's not that boom mic operator from the first movie, the guy in the pink shorts.
But I mean, you could see him as being of course, he was in the Imperial base. That was the real problem. If he were in a background on the village or something.
Hey, maybe he was a contractor.
About Matt, the radar tech.
Yeah. He was a contractor. He's probably in there.
They used the wrong kind of PVC running the plumbing for this place. We're going to have to tear this all out.
Again, another example of a contractor not taking political, issues into account when picking jobs.
We're going to have to strip this base to the studs and start over. I'm sorry, but got to rewire the whole place. It's not up to code.
Code calls for cedar wood. We're gonna have to take all this.
Yeah. So that was a good episode. We're excited. We're looking forward to the next one.
I enjoyed it.
Watch us on tv8mydinner.com. You can
always
check out
good stuff there. Yeah, we have that. The Marvel Age Star Wars proper has a comic book,
which is where you're watching this. I'm hoping.
Yeah, so check us out on Facebook. We're there as TV at My Dinner, but we're also there as Expanding Universe for their Star Wars stuff, so you can check that out. TV at My Dinner is also on Twitter, so you can follow us there. Go to tv8mydinner.com for more episodes of this show and others like it, including some of our audio podcasts. So check that stuff out.
A long backlog of audio podcasts you could check out.
Many years of
your commute that you don't have because of COVID.
Since the first Transformers movie, whenever that was.
2007.
Okay, there you go.
So also, Sean's got a book on Amazon. Pick it up if you're looking for a gift for someone who's really into psychiatry psychology and Star Wars.
The Jungian psychology of Star Wars. You can get a treatise on that just in time for Christmas.
What kid won't love that for Christmas?
Yeah, looks good under a tree.
I gave my cousin a Lord of the Rings years, like probably 15, 20 years ago. He was like 12 or something. He opened it and literally threw it on the ground and went to open his PlayStation 2 games. Yeah, it's like, well, glad I bought that.
That's what damn kids. For your nephews. It's about psychology of Star Wars.
That actually reminds me of something I was going to tell you, Sean.
I could use a horse blanket.
I found an online master's degree program at UGA about media studies. And when I read it, I thought
that could be your thesis.
I know Sean's already got the thesis written for this.
Man, you've already got it. You're done. Just give it to him and say, I'm done. Where's my degree?
I wanted to go because they've got that Jung Institute, and they do have some places that have like degree like programs in like studying mythology and stuff like that, like Joseph Campbell kind of stuff. I'd love that.
Mm-hmm. Well, do it, man.
Do it.
Made the time or money. It takes both.
I made of nothing but muscle.
So you get your school paid for, man.
Yeah, I made of that.
So much muscle mass, I can't do anything else. I can barely move.
It just blacks out the camera. Like Vanta Black.
I'd flex, but this shirt would rip off, and then
yeah,
I'm out another shirt. So it's hard finding shirts that'll fit this mass.
I know.
Ass is right.
That is why these big weightlifter dudes wear those tank tops with the skinniest straps you've ever seen.
Oh, really?
Anything more than that? I can't hold the muscle in.
Feel pretty.
Put an eye out or something. All right.
My God, we cannot finish this show.
Just that's
okay.
It. My name is Sean.
I'm Brooks.
I'm Andrew.
I am Greg.
We'll see you next time, next week for episode 5. Bye-bye.
Snoop.